Founded in 1892, GE today is preparing to launch again as three independent, investment-grade, industry-leading companies following several years of financial, operational, and cultural transformations. After the successful spinoff of GE Healthcare in early 2023, our teams are moving forward with tremendous pace to spin off GE Vernova and launch GE Aerospace this spring. Today, we've brought together the CEOs of GE's three companies to talk about our progress to date and to help us break down what this means for our future. I'm thrilled today to be joined by GE Chairman and CEO and GE Aerospace CEO Larry Culp, GE Vernova CEO Scott Strazik, GE Healthcare President and CEO Pete Arduini. I don't think the three of you have shared the stage together since March 22 Investor Day, so this is a real treat. With that, let's dig in and start with the strategy that was laid out nearly 2.5 years ago to separate GE into three independent companies. So Larry, so much has happened to get us where we are today. Let's start with why forming three public companies was the right decision for GE, both when we announced it in 21 and still today.
Well, Linda, good to be with you, and always good to be with Scott and Pete. We ought to do this more often.
It's fun, isn't it?
We don't have as many opportunities anymore. But you're right. A lot has happened over the last several years. Time flies. But when I think about how we got to where we are and why the strategy makes sense, I think it comes back to one of our leadership behaviors: focus. Right? We knew early on that we would benefit from greater focus as a company in each of the businesses and even at the individual level. Everything I've seen over the last year with healthcare would suggest they're a better, stronger business, being more focused, not only with respect to their customers, but just the industry at large. And you see that with their investor base, and you see that with their board of directors. And if that has the same galvanizing effect at Vernova and Aerospace, I think we're going to be very pleased with the path from here.
I can hear the excitement in your voice as you talk about it. You know, Larry, last year the GE stock led our peers. But not too long ago, the headlines for GE looked a lot different. Can we talk about how we got here and kind of dig into how you approach GE's operational and cultural transformation?
Well, a lot has happened, right, over that time period, and hopefully we're as good as the stock price would suggest, given the performance over the last year plus, but I suspect we weren't nearly as troubled as some might have suggested a few years back. But if you step back from the stock price, I think it was really day by day, business by business, this wonderful team we're a part of was more focused and dealt with the challenges head on, right? We talk a lot about decentralization. We talk a lot about lean. But at the end of the day, just trying to be better day in, day out. Not necessarily doing that as GE, but in each business, and Scott really got the ball rolling in gas power, I think we've been able to show the world that these are three phenomenal businesses. We're running them better, and our best days are still very much in front of us, in large part because of the work that we've done and the opportunities that lie ahead.
Pete, GE Healthcare was the first to launch, first out of the nest, so to speak, spinning off a year ago in January. So talk to us about what's felt different for your team as an independent company. Are there any growing pains? What have been some of the biggest benefits to the last year and being independent?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's hard to imagine it's been over a year for us at this point in time, and things have gone by pretty quickly. But it's been a great experience. I think for our team, you know, everybody got kind of promoted all of a sudden. So what I mean by that is all of a sudden you don't have someone who's you're reporting to, you're the top leader for that group. And it had to change relative to the decisions you make, how you think about those decisions. You know, Larry mentioned focus and autonomy. I think that component was big, and not everybody at every level is ready for it. So we've had a lot of work, supporting the team to be able to get there. But that's actually turned out to be a very positive effect. And this idea of being an owner and a founder. We have 51,000 founders and many, many more owners. And founders and owners act differently, and we're seeing that in action. Nothing goes perfect. We've had our fair share of challenges along the way. I would say one of the things that you underestimate as you come out as a separate company is there's a lot of firsts. Your board, we have this tremendous board, but they're all meeting each other. We have a set of great investors and analysts. They're learning. And so there's a lot of things. And so this idea of focus and probably even turbo focusing your first year because you have so many firsts to get at, I think we took a quarter or two to figure that out. And then as we made the turn in the second half, we got a lot better about that. I think focus is a big, really matters. I mean, I can see deeper in our product areas how much clinically deeper people are. And in our world, the healthcare world is getting more sophisticated. That's key. And then we've been able to attract more talent. People coming to us and saying, I want to be a part of this because of the focused strategy and our purpose. I think those are, two that.
Yeah, I love that. Scott, you and the Vernova team have made really tremendous progress. It's been wonderful to watch as you're preparing to stand alone. I'd love to hear you talk about the opportunity in front of you and what you're most excited about for investors and others once you are independent. What are you seeing that you want them to say?
Linda, we've got an incredible opportunity in front of us. The reality is we're seeing a world that's further electrifying. So many industries, whether it be cars, whether it be home heating, whether it be the electricity demand needs with things like data centers and artificial intelligence. And that's going to drive a 50% plus growth in electricity demand. But because most of that demand will be filled with renewables that aren't necessarily powered 24 hours a day, we're actually going to double the system size in the next 20 years and do that while we're decarbonizing the system. So when you think about the world and investment cycles, you can think about the 80s and 90s and globalization or the last 20 years with the internet. I think we're going into the next 20 years with an incredible super investment cycle in the energy transition in which Vernova is so well equipped to serve our customers in the world as really the world evolves and changes.
You talk, Scott, often about being purpose-led. Maybe spend a moment talking about that.
It's a lot of what I just said. I mean, when we have discussions on sustainability and what matters and both creating a world that has access to electricity, but also that we continue to thrive in cleaning up the planet and the system at large, that is what we're here for every day. Doing both, further electrifying the world, but doing it with less carbon every day and really creating a system of systems between not just the power generation, but also the grid and the brains of the grid to operate in this complex system. GE Vernova is well equipped to lead in this regard, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Yeah, it's exciting. Larry, I'm going to circle back to you. Since you started, a key piece to GE's strategy has been embedding lean in our businesses. So I'd love to hear from you. How has lean improved not just how we work with our customers, but how has lean helped us as our businesses prepare to stand alone?
Well, it's hard to separate the two, right? Because I think as both Pete and Scott have indicated already, these businesses are going to be even more focused than they have been on their customers and on a go-forward basis. When I think about lean, one of the key elements is that not only that customer focus, but making sure that you see yourselves, that we see ourselves as our customers do. So a lot of what we've done is really to try to make sure that any operating metrics we use, and I underscore the operational rather than the financial aspect there, are in line with the way customers would grade us out. When I joined the company, I remember on a few occasions getting an internal scorecard that didn't foot well with customers. That tight alignment has been, I think, critical in that everything we do with respect to Kaizens and all the rest really geared toward improving our performance in the eyes of the customer and doing so sustainably, right? That's why we sweat the process so much. We don't want to just deliver a quarter, make a year. How do we build that capability into the organization so that it is sustainable and frankly less work on a go-forward basis? I think that would work for any business, but given that each of the three of us will be out under our own spotlights, all the more important and valuable.
Larry, while you have the mic, any advice for our friends at GE Healthcare and GE Vernova as they continue on their own lean journeys?
Well, I don't think I would have any advice for Pete or Scott. They haven't already heard from me 1,000 times. But since it's not just the four of us here, beware fake lead, right? There's just so many ways in which people are going to want to be part of a lean agenda. We're going to tell us what they want to hear or what they think we want to hear, but not really be hardcore, day in, day out, working the process in a respectful way to deliver for our customers and deliver for our investors. I know that's not the way you operate, Scott, you as well. And if we can just make sure we hold that standard, we'll be fine, and we'll have three great lean exemplars out there, all sporting the monogram.
I love that. I love that the monogram's continuing with all three.
Whose idea was that?
I don't know. I kind of remember us bouncing it around a little bit. It's turned out to be a good thing. So a few prompts I'd love to get each of your thoughts on, please. So first, let's talk about each business is in an amazing, different, important sector. So I want to talk a little bit about how each of the three companies will lead in your respective spaces and the future of those spaces, so to speak. Pete, I'm going to start with you and we'll kind of go down the line.
Yeah, well, obviously everyone at some level appreciates healthcare, right? We all experience it at some point in our lives and throughout our lives. Cardiovascular disease, biggest, killer around the world. Cancer is growing in younger folks. Dementia is expected to double. The good news is there's never been more new drugs, therapies that are out there that actually get bent the curve. And for us at GE Healthcare, in either the pharmaceutical side or the device side, we play a quite a big role in facilitating either the delivery, the diagnosis, or actually the execution of the therapy. And so that's a big driver. I think you have to think about the over 65 population and what that bolus looks like over the next couple of years. That's driving a lot of the underlying growth. But the real exciting part is around this transformation that I'd say many people would believe the next 10 years, there'll be more change in healthcare than the last 100 together because of one thing. And it's about data enabled by artificial intelligence. And we really are going to lead in that area. How do you bring the right type of artificial intelligence into our devices, into our data, to assist caregivers to give better care and to give, in many cases, access into areas that didn't have access before, but at the same time drive productivity because costs are still too expensive to deliver the care. And so ultimately, this idea of precision care, which all of us are different, how do you unlock those individual differences but do it in a cost-effective way? That's really the purpose when we talk about creating a world where healthcare has no limits. That's what we're all about. And that's what people are super excited about at GE Healthcare.
Yeah, we could all relate to it. Scott?
A big part of this is also figuring out a way to industrialize things at scale for the energy transition. I mean, there's a lot of companies, a lot of technologies out there today, even from our corporate headquarters in Cambridge. There's over 300 energy transition startups within a couple miles of this building. And the reality is there's a lot of good ideas, but then making it real at scale with our customer base that can really have an impact on the world, this is what we're good at. And I think we can position ourselves in an even more offensive way going forward to be that partner and to be that counterparty to make sure that the right technologies get industrialized to make this the decade of action we often talk about it being, and to both continue to electrify and decarbonize. And that's a big part of what I'm excited about going forward.
It's bold. Larry, aerospace, small little sector that you're leading.
Small little sector. Well, we'll be headquartered in Cincinnati, not far from Dayton, right, where the Wright brothers did their amazing work. And I think we take inspiration from that. When we talk about inventing and shaping the future of flight, we know we have incredible demand in front of us, really as far as the eye can see. That would be enough in most normal circumstances because the world wants to fly, particularly post-pandemic. We also know that in addition and ahead of that great demand, the world wants to fly safely. And we've seen too many situations over the last many months of where the flying public may not take that for granted. We have an incredibly important role to play in safety with respect to the industry delivering on its obligations. And at the same time, to Scott's point a moment ago, people want to fly in a more sustainable way. So when we think about the future of flight, it's not just the numbers with these incredible skylines our customers have. It's making sure that we continue to advance delivered safety, and all the while making sure the next generation engines and the ones after those are more sustainable, because sustainability is very much core to the strategy of GE Aerospace.
These are three pretty spectacular missions and purposes. So I want to talk for a moment about leading through change. I personally believe that history books may judge this in time to be the greatest industrial turnaround of the century, what all of you have accomplished. So I guess I'd like to take a moment and ask what you're most proud of. And as you think about how your teams work, how do you prioritize going forward that important work? Scott, maybe I'll kick this one off with you.
You bet. I mean, I think it's been an incredible journey, but a complicated journey the last 5 years as we've been kind of setting up these businesses for the spin. And one of the things I'm most proud of is the team that stuck with us through that. And frankly, also the new team that has come towards us to play a part. Because when you think about that, it's probably the thing I take most seriously, but also with the most pride, is the team that's chosen to lead with us, move their lives, change their lives, become part of Vernova because they believe in that purpose and they believe in the platform of what Vernova can mean. That motivates me more every day than almost anything else, is our team. Those that are new and those that have chosen to be here for a long time. And it's also, it gives me an incredible amount of confidence with what we can do from here.
Pete, what about you?
A little bit of play off of Scott's comments as I was reflecting on his comments. I mean, two things kind of come to mind. And it really ties back to customers. Being out with customers, and I've had a handful of customers come up to you and say, Pete, it feels different. The way your team, the humility, the listening to us, solving our problems, it feels different. And when you hear that, when you're trying to drive all this culture behind the scenes, everything else is interesting. That's what really matters. And because of that, they're saying, we want to work with you. And so we're seeing that translate into value. And I would just say the other thing in the first year, I think our say-do ratio on what we told employees was going to happen, what we told customers, and what we told investors doesn't mean that it was perfect. But I think we deliver a higher percentage of what we said the team would do.
Larry?
Linda, as you and I have talked many times, for me, it continues to be the team. I'm relatively new, and I can't say that so much anymore. But if you've been here longer than I have, you may not appreciate how truly capable this team is. We've been through a lot. The commitment level that I've seen just in so many parts of the world, off the charts. And the resiliency, because there were plenty of not so easy days, as you well remember.
Yep.
Right? And that's uncommon in my view. It's easy to be committed in the good days, right? When the wind is at your back, but we didn't always have the wind at our back. It was at times in our face. So the capability, the commitment, the resilience, pretty proud of that.
Yeah, there's a lot there to be proud of. So I'm going to ask us to end by looking forward. If you could each share how you feel about the future in just one word, what word would that be? Pete, let's start with you.
Innovation.
Scott?
Transformation.
Confidence. What about you? What's your word?
Momentous. I think we stand on the door of history. And I think, to Larry's point, it's a result of the team and the resilience and the history of innovation that started 133 years ago. And I think this moment is truly momentous. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you to our three CEOs. That was really a treat, Pete, Scott, and Larry, to get your thoughts on the eve of what we're all going through. I know we're all looking forward to how each of these companies is going to invent the future, carry forward GE's commitment to innovation and continuous improvement. Transformation, innovation, confidence. Thank you, everybody.